Hello YouTubers, you're on an all new My Favorite segment, and today I decided to go over my favorite Lethal Weapon films. I'm going to rank all 4 films from my least favorite to most favorite. Now this list may differ from yours, so feel free down in the comments to share your favorite Lethal Weapon films. You can also follow me on the Stardust app for my reactions to my favorite TV shows or films. You can download it and post your own reactions. Starting the list at number 4 is Lethal Weapon 3. Now, I actually love all the Lethal Weapon films, but this is just my least favorite. Mainly because of the villain, and I like the other movies a little bit better, but this film still has a lot to offer. For a third entry, it is not a bad film. It does something different. Murtaugh is on the verge of retiring, and Riggs and Murtaugh pretty much have to deal with moving on with their lives. We also have a new love interest, pretty much a female version of Riggs, with Lorna Cole, played by Renee Russo. She is tough, she's sassy, and she's pretty much Riggs' equal, and I love her character in this. We also have a lot more of Leo Getz. Now, Leo Getz is a little bit more annoying in this one than in Lethal Weapon 2, but I still love Joe Pesci's performance, and the chemistry between him, Murtaugh, and Riggs, and how they just mess with him, especially with like the dum-dum wounds and stuff like that. I also like the villain of Jack Travis, played by Stuart Wilson. This guy is a chameleon. He's a great actor, and I really love his performance as this villain. It's funny how 1 and 3 deal with somebody who used to be good turned corrupt, while you have more international bad guys in installments 2 and 4. He used to be a cop, like Riggs and Murtaugh. He just turned corrupt and started going after their armory for weapons. And this deals with gangs in Los Angeles, something very relevant for the time it came out in 1992. And it's something very different. It's more street level compared to the first two. It's more like the first Lethal Weapon in many ways. It has a lot more humor, but you still have some great action with the motorcycle chase. I love that, the housing complex towards the end. And Murtaugh accidentally shooting a kid. It's a friend that his son knew who was in a gang, and that just weighs heavily on Murtaugh. And it's great seeing that not only affect Murtaugh as an individual, but affect Riggs and Murtaugh's partnership in the film. There's some really great acting between Mel Gibson and Danny Glover here. Lethal Weapon 3 is actually a pretty good installment for a third entry. I just don't like it as much as the other films, but I have to say I really love the soundtrack. I love the scene between Lorna Cole and Mel Gibson with them comparing scars. It's Probably Me by Sting. So many great moments. The bomb at the beginning where it's like, maybe we should have called the bomb squad. And Die Hard with a Vengeance was actually supposed to be Lethal Weapon 3. They're also supposed to go after Aryan Brotherhood members. It got changed to a corrupt cop, and I like it. It's a very different change of pace for the Lethal Weapon series. It still feels original and refreshing at this point, and is a solid conclusion to what was thought to be a trilogy at the time. Above that at number 3 is Lethal Weapon 4. I like this film just a bit more than 3. It rounds out the story of Riggs and Murtaugh, and who could forget Jet Li as the villain? I love Jet Li as the villain. That final fight is phenomenal. And it makes me wonder what Riggs could have done to this character in his prime. But Riggs is getting older. He's getting slower. He's not as strong as he used to be, and I love that. This is one of the few series to actually stop while it's ahead. And it deals with age in a realistic way. Our heroes age, they progress. Riggs is no longer the suicidal lethal weapon that he was in the original film, no. Him and Lorna Cole, they're not married, but they're together. They're expecting a child, and everybody's moving forward. Murtaugh is going to become a granddaddy. We have the character of Butters, Lee Butters, played by Chris Rock. Some funny humor there between him and Joe Pesci, him and Danny Glover. And yeah, this has a lot more comedy. It's very different from the other ones, but it still has a lot of great action, whether it's the flamethrower scene. That fire in the hole sound by Van Halen's awesome. You have the triads, and they're a deadly enemy. They have the same intimidation of the South Africans from Lethal Weapon 2. In many ways, it's almost like a greatest hits of the series. Riggs has shorter hair, and it's pretty much a good conclusion for Riggs and Murtaugh in the Lethal Weapon series. I love this. It pulls out all the stops, and it's fun. It's funny, it's action-packed, and it's entertaining. It's the best of what you want from Lethal Weapon. I really like the villain. Jet Li as a villain was really a much-needed villain. It was a much far grave threat than Jack Travis ever was. And the stuff got really personal in this installment. You weren't sure if people were going to make it out alive. Yet they did, and the payoff was fantastic. Richard Donner ended this series in grand fashion. Above that at number 2 is the original 1987 Lethal Weapon. I love this film. This is before it started getting really comedic. It was still dark, serious. Shane Black's script was amazing. This is the epitome of a buddy cop film. Every other buddy cop film that has come out after is just a pale imitation of Lethal Weapon. And Mel Gibson gives one of his best performances of his career as Martin Riggs. He's suicidal. He's declared a lethal weapon. Yet what keeps him going is the job. I love Danny Glover as Murtaugh, this kind of like aging cop who's with a new partner now, who's younger than him, and him dealing with that. Also, they both deal with different forces from their past, and I love that connection to Vietnam and the General McAllister, and you have Gary Busey as Joshua. Such great villains with the heroin trade, Dixie, and yeah, Amanda Hutsucker's death. You have Jingle Bell Rock at the beginning. Yeah, every time I listen to Jingle Bell Rock, I'm always going to think of a prostitute falling to her death. Morbid, I know, but think Lethal Weapon for that. Yeah, it's a crazy good movie for Christmas. It's an awesome 80s action film. The chemistry between Mel Gibson and Danny Glover makes this film. And I love it. This first installment is just an awesome film from beginning to end. I love how they meet. I love the director's cut even, where you have the school shooting and Riggs go after the sniper. That's such an intense scene that sums up his character perfectly. Lethal Weapon is a great 80s action film, and I really love the story, the relationship between the two characters, and all the different action scenes you see, even with downtown Los Angeles, that fight at the end, the desert scene. So many great moments that makes this a memorable action film and the best buddy cop film ever made. But at my number 1 is Lethal Weapon 2. This is one of the best sequels ever made, and this is a sequel done right. It improves upon everything done in Lethal Weapon and adds a new flavor. We have more comedy, but we also have the addition of Joe Pesci as Leo Getz. Whatever you need, Leo gets. We also learned a couple of new things about drive-thrus. I like this movie because it's about the South Africans and they have to deal with people with diplomatic immunity. That's something different. Diplomatic immunity, and you didn't have any 80s movies go after South Africans. There's always like some Colombian drug dealers or Russians. So having South Africans was totally something different at the time. I also like the humor. They doubled down on the humor, especially with the Trojan commercial with the condom tree. That was funny, the rubber tree. The drive-through scene, their relationship with Leo, this kind of like Three Stooges act, the odd couple with this little guy that's in the witness protection. But I mostly love this film because it connects straight to Riggs' origin story. These bad guys are the reason why Riggs' wife was murdered. And it is crazy when you learn that. And they also declare war on the police. They kill off the police one by one. And they can't do anything because of diplomatic immunity. So they really go against some foes that they cannot stop legally, but they must do so illegally. And everything is put on the line, everything is pushed further, and it's really personal. I love that final confrontation. I love the relationship with Rika and that tragedy there. Lethal Weapon 2 is an awesome film, and who could forget that ending? When you think Riggs is out of it, the guy's there, he's like, diplomatic immunity! And then Murtaugh just cracks his neck and he's just like, just been revoked. I love that. Along with Eric Clapton's cover of Knocking on Heaven's Door, that ending. And in the original ending, Riggs was supposed to get killed off. It was a much darker ending from Shane Black's script. Luckily, they changed it, and we had a great series of films. But I really love Lethal Weapon 2. That was the one that had the right amount of comedy, the right amount of seriousness, and it just had all the right elements that made up a great Lethal Weapon film. It was a perfect sequel in many ways. A highlight of the series. Yep, that does it for my Lethal Weapon reviews. Feel free to share yours down in the comments below. Like, comment your favorite Lethal Weapon films, and subscribe for more videos.